One win. The first team to lose to Cupertino in 12 years, and the laughing stock of the league. That was what the 2013 MVHS junior varsity team was known for. 2 years later, nearly the same group of people stepped into the Friday Night Lights, faced with the task of bringing back a winning tradition to the school. They came prepared to prove not only to themselves, but everyone in the area the true definition of purple pride, because in their minds and their hearts, they knew that this was finally their season.
We knew we didn't have as much talent, but being moved down to the lower division, we thought we were untouchable because we had the experience from the upper division, and once you play the big teams, the little teams are nothing.
We actually wanted to go to CCS and end this season with 10-0. We personally thought that we could win our league.
After an impressive showing by the Matadors in their preseason scrimmage, they prepared for a familiar opponent, the Westmont Warriors, a team that has beaten Monte Vista's senior class in each of the last 3 years. A 40-0 humiliation 2 years ago, followed by a nail-biting loss in their home opener a year later, only made them hungrier for redemption.
Seeing a different team, having refs stepping onto the field, Friday Night Lights, going through the routines, it's different. I mean, even having a scrimmage before that, it's not the same.
The Matador triple option spread its wings in the first quarter as Gingold scampered for a 52-yard touchdown to put the Matadors on the board.
I hugged it tight this time and made one cut, and I saw the blockers had everyone on the outside, so I just made a cut, and I was by myself and just running as fast as I can, hoping no one would catch me.
A few minutes later, however, Westmont answered back when junior Nolan Berry recovered a fumble off of Gingold's pitch and took it to the house.
It kind of killed our confidence, but we knew because we scored so easily, it wasn't over, and we were going to have that game. No matter what, they weren't going to take that game from us.
If the first half fumbles were any indicator, the contest would be defined by turnovers. The Matadors had their fair share of giveaways, but in the end, the boys in purple and gold won their turnover battle and the game due to an impressive defensive showing.
We made a lot of mistakes, but I think we played with a lot of heart, and our defense got a lot of stops, and that's all you can ask for pretty much. You can't just ask to be perfect every game.
After 3 years, we were finally able to beat him. We all knew that we wanted to beat him. We wanted it more than they did.
Winning that game really did a lot for us, and it wasn't just that we won it, it was that we got whatever we want out of it, and we could do pretty much whatever we wanted. We were playing really well, and it really kind of showed us that we could have a really good season.
Off to a 1-0 start, the Matadors felt confident throughout the week and were ready to take on their next opponent, the Seaside Spartans. All they saw in the Spartans was their 1-9 record from last year. Traveling into unfamiliar territory, the Matadors were in for a rude awakening.
What happened during this 2-hour ride was, I feel like we're more relaxed, especially after our win after Westmont. We were getting a little bit playful, started screwing around a bit, and we didn't get ready mentally early enough, and that affected us during the game.
We were dealing with some kids that were from the inner city, and they could run and they had some skills, and I think at times we were intimidated by them.
When we got into the locker room, there was no sense of preparedness, or there's no sense of seriousness. Everyone was just pretending it was all fun and games, and we didn't handle business.
Right from the opening kickoff, the Spartans displayed their dominance through overwhelming physicality and speed. With running back Keyshawn Robinson in the zone, the Spartans scored twice in the first half while shutting out the Matador offense.
They just got everything that they wanted, and that was a problem because everything starts on defense, and we weren't playing like we were coached to. We weren't playing because they were just more physical than us, and we were scared.
In the third, the Matadors finally found their groove. Down 21-0, Gingold led his team down the field, finishing the drive with a 25-yard keeper up the middle. They scored later again in the fourth, this time on a strike to Ryan Granzella to cut the deficit to 7. But in the end, it was too little too late as the Matadors fell 28-14.
We thought we were going to win that game. I thought I was ready. Pretty much everyone thought we were ready, but I guess we were just too relaxed about it.
Now that the Matadors had experienced what it felt like to lose, it only motivated them more to come out stronger the next week in their home opener against the undefeated Jefferson Grizzlies.
Every time you lose, you get more and more hungry. You want to win the next game more. I know after every time we lost, I know for me at least, I didn't want to celebrate after the game. I didn't want to go to In-N-Out. I didn't want to hang out with my friends late because it's kind of like more than just football. It's pride, it's self-pride, and we know that we only have 10 games in our last season ever, and each one you want to win. So after you lose, you're just mad.
The Matadors came out of the gates strongly with the score on their first drive, but for the rest of the half, Jefferson had control of the game. Their passing game was electric as their receivers put the Monta Vista defense on skates time and time again to help their team to a 14-7 lead at the break.
Whoever wins the second half wins the game, basically. We weren't down by that much. You know, we were still in the ball game. We just had to go all out.
At halftime, we just told ourselves, like, we need to keep fighting, because they're going to break down eventually. I mean, they had less players than us, and that's kind of how our team works, is you wear them down, you wear them down, you wear them down, and finally you start leading.
After giving up another touchdown to trail 21-7, the Matadors turned the game around completely. Led by their defense, they forced 2 turnovers off of punts, which fueled them to score 28 unanswered. In that span of time, Jefferson could not even muster up a first down due to large part to the absolute dominance of the Matadors' front 7.
Usually when we go down, we can't come back from it, but we were down by two touchdowns, and we just pounded it 28 straight. So that kind of showed a lot about our character. That was kind of picture-perfect football right there. That's like exactly what we wanted, and we hoped we could do that all season. But that kind of showed us a glimpse of how our season could go, and we could do that to any team we wanted, especially Jefferson being one of the better teams we played. We were just manhandling them.
Down 28-14 with under 5 minutes, the Grizzlies started a comeback of their own. Both their passing and rushing attack came back to life, and they were able to score a quick touchdown to regain momentum. They immediately got the ball back on an onside kick and drove down the field once again, only to be stalled in the red zone. On 4th down, with the game hanging in the balance, Jefferson dialed up a trick play to score a stunning touchdown to come within 1 point. Rather than kicking the extra point to tie the game up, the Grizzlies opted to go for the win.
Whoever wanted it more was going to get it, and Jason got through. Basically, our game plan was to just make a big pile and try to stop him from running in the end zone, and he actually went on all fours, crawled up, got up, and tackled him, and it was a really good play. I'll remember it for a long time.
Finally, after an unsuccessful onside kick and a few kneel downs later, the Matadors survived by the thinnest of margins and improved to 2-1.
We tried to give that one away. We tried, yeah, we tried, but we got it. It was a big win for us. The defense came through in that game, and there's no doubt about it.
A spirited second half effort had proven to the Matadors their potential both offensively and defensively. But one glaring problem that they faced was their lack of depth, and that played a large factor when they faced the Santa Teresa Saints the following week.
They were 3 deep in every position. They had 65 kids on their squad. We had, at that point in time, I think we had 28.
We had like more of a negative mindset towards this game because we knew that being very limited in numbers, we would get exhausted, we'd be tired, not have much fresh substitutes. And while Santa Teresa, they get fresh 11 guys for offense, fresh 11 guys for defense, it's kind of unfair.
To both teams' surprise, the Matadors were the ones who got off to a quick start, scoring twice in the opening quarter, including a spectacular connection from Gingold to Grenzel. But from there, the Saints' defense continuously disrupted the Matadors' triple option offense, keeping them out of the red zone. At the same time, they started to wear down on the Matador defense, creating open lanes for the Santa Teresa running backs. To answer back were 2 touchdowns of their own. Although the score was all tied up at the half, the Saints had the momentum on their side.
Beginning of the game, once we figured out, after hitting them our hardest, that they're not as good as we made them to be, we knew we were still in the ballgame. We were ready to go back in, but I feel like a couple of guys were hurt in places or like injured because like they're constantly in, right? So it's only a matter of time before someone gets injured from playing too hard or playing too much.
We did what we wanted. We were up 14-0, and our defense couldn't get stops, and our offense couldn't move the ball. And that's kind of the nightmare. You can't do anything worse than that.
The opening kickoff of the second half foretold how the rest of the game would play out. With the game up for grabs, Alec Calderon of the Saints received the ball and virtually went untouched all the way to the end zone.
Kickoff's one of the most important things. People take it for granted. They returned it, brought it back, and that kind of killed all our momentum.
The tone of the game always starts from the first play. And I saw that and I was like, it's going to be a tough comeback now because it looks like they're ready to play. It doesn't look like we're ready to play. And after that, I was like, we got to get this back. We got to get, because this is our field, this is our house.
And that was just the start of the onslaught. On the ensuing drive, Gingold tried to find Gonzala across the middle, but instead threw the ball right in the hands of Calderon, who raced down the sideline for his second score in a matter of just seconds. Soon after, Gingold coughed the ball up inside the Matador's own 30, leading to yet another score. When it was all said and done, the Saints had scored 47 unanswered points, leaving the Matadors stranded in their dust.
They basically took it to us in the second half.
I know I turned it over 3 times straight. It's probably one of the most frustrating games I've ever had in my life. They just stabbed us and you just felt it and you couldn't do anything. You just kind of had to take it.
Now that the Matadors had completed their difficult non-league schedule, it was time for them to focus on their ultimate goal, winning a league championship. And to do so, they would have to get past the Santa Clara Bruins. The Matadors and the Bruins came into the season as the league favorites, and in the minds of the players and coaches, this game would ultimately determine the champion.
We beat Santa Clara last year really bad, had one of our best games, and we were really confident.
We knew that this was going to be a big game because Santa Clara had not graduated a whole lot of kids the previous year, and this group had been with that coach for 3 years.
It was their most important game of the season, and the Matadors were missing 2 of their most important players, who had other priorities they needed to fulfill before returning to the team.
Added commitment that I had to make other than football, and something I promised my dad to, and I promised myself to.
Despite the absence of both Jane and senior Sanat Sangamali, the Matadors were able to completely shut down the Bruins' high-scoring spread offense. They produced barely any offensive yards, which resulted in several 3-and-outs and extra possessions for the Matadors. Offensively, Gingold led his team down the field several times, but the Matadors repeatedly turned the ball over to keep the game scoreless heading into the half.
We had some personnel issues we had to deal with, and you know, we played some guys and they stepped up and they did a great job for us.
We were playing without Anshu and Sanat, which are big parts of our line, and our coverage was really good.
Much like the previous game, the second half kickoff changed the tide of the game completely, but this time it was the Matadors receiving. The Bruins kicker booted a perfect squib kick that returner Radwan Hamri struggled to get his hands on. By the time he managed to get the ball, a whole swarm of Bruins were there to pounce on the ball at the Matadors' own 1-yard line. A play later, the Bruins scored and just like that, had a 6-0 lead. 2 drives later, the Matadors drove down the field, poised to score the game-tying touchdown. But just like in the first half, the Matadors turned the ball over in the red zone when Gingold's pass is picked off by the Bruins' Marquis Shields at the 1-yard line. Looking to redeem themselves, the Matadors came out aggressively, trying to cause a safety. Instead, the complete opposite happened. Quarterback Chris Brown launched a deep pass to Shields who went 99 yards for the touchdown, setting a school record and absolutely sucking the life out of the Matadors.
Special teams, we need to take care of the ball, catch the ball, and eliminate big plays, because that's kind of been our problem this whole year and also last year. Was they get 10 yards, 15 yards, that's okay, but once they break one for a 99-yard pass, that's the one that really hurts.
Gingold led a fourth quarter comeback, cutting the deficit to 7 and forcing a punt to get one last chance to score. But again, Hamli muffed the ball on special teams and set the Bruins up in perfect position to seal the deal and win the game, despite being outgained by 130 yards.
We thought we could beat them. They thought that we could beat them as well. After talking to the coach afterwards, and I told him, I said, you got a gift because we thought we were going to shut you down.
The feeling of me not being able to do anything for my team, I think that hurt a lot for me. I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that hurt me as much as not being able to play with these guys. I let my team down. I let myself down too.
We almost won that game without him, and just because what he did, how he made everyone better, and what we thought of, okay, we're going to get Anshu back after this and we're not going to lose.
After starting league play with a forgettable loss to the Bruins, the Matadors looked to rebound in a heated contest against the Los Altos Eagles. In order to keep their league championship hopes alive, they had to venture out into a college atmosphere and spoil other teams' homecoming when the lights were brighter and larger than ever.
We had never had very good luck at Foothill. I mean, we had played there about 3 or 4 times and we got killed every time.
This is Los Altos' homecoming. You know, nobody likes stealing homecomings more than the Matadors.
Just like the stands are bigger, and it just feels like it feels like the traditional high school game you'd have that you've been looking up for, like since you were a kid, just to play. We were ready for that game. I think out of every game, even if they got some big plays, we were definitely ready.
The Eagles got off to a great start with a thunderous score on their opening possession. The Matadors responded later in the quarter with a score of their own as Gingold squeezed through the line and found a way into the end zone for a 12-yard touchdown. Following another Eagles score, Ryan Granzella hauled in a 40-yard touchdown grab that tied the game up once again right before the half.
We knew we had to start throwing the ball because people were putting 9 and 10 men in the box against us. So we had to go ahead and get them to back off. So we had to throw the ball a little bit more. And that ended up being a good thing because it backed a lot of teams off.
Ryan's a really good receiver, and he showed us that game. I mean, he really had a day.
Coming out of halftime, the Matadors struck first with a short run by Gingle. On the Eagles' next few possessions, the Matadors displayed tremendous fortitude and confidence, racking up consecutive stops on D. Midway through the fourth quarter, the Matadors' offense found themselves on the Los Altos 1-yard line, faced with a crucial 4th and goal that they would eventually fail to convert. The very next play, the Matador defense stuffed the Eagles in the end zone to extend their lead to 9 with just under 5 minutes remaining in the game. Following the safety, Gingold and the Matadors punched the ball into the end zone on their ensuing possession to seal a 30-14 win.
Especially when people are talking a lot, talking trash, and they're so confident and cocky that they're going to win. Best feeling is just to beat them and not say anything and just look at them, shake their hand after the game, and go celebrate. I mean, 33 carries, that's the most I've ever gotten. And it's a good feeling to know that when your team needs you, you can actually provide. But it was hard. I mean, sometimes I almost wanted to change the play on the line just to give it to someone else because you're just physically like worn down. But at the end, it paid off.
After spoiling homecoming for the Los Altos Eagles, the Matadors returned home to recuperate for their upcoming matchup against the Mountain View Spartans. After a week of homecoming festivities, MVHS students piled into the bleachers on Friday, October 16th. With a 1-1 league record, the Matadors were desperate for a win.
I was really emotional. I mean, I remember playing my first ever homecoming game. Being a captain, being a leader on the team, you have to set your team up and make everyone ready to win. And I think we did. We were prepared to win.
We were able to steal one homecoming. More than anything else, we wanted our own homecoming too. So we knew that Mountain View was going to be the toughest game of the season. And I think mentally, we were prepared to win our homecoming as well.
For the Matadors, the game started off with a bang, and on the Spartans' first play from the scrimmage, a downfield pass was picked off by senior safety Pranav Iyer to energize the Matadors and their fans. But they were not able to capitalize on the turnover, and from there, the match became a defensive stalemate, with several 3-and-outs from both sides. Frustration rose from both offenses as neither team was able to find any gaps in the defense.
This game was just rough. I mean, I think I had 17 carries for 17 yards. It's the worst I've ever had. Going into the half, they ran a formation that we knew we could stop. We practiced against it, and we knew they passed out of it. And they ran exactly what we practiced, and they got like over a 50-yard pass for a touchdown, and that one hurts.
We knew that we were pretty much evenly matched and that we could come back like that. It wasn't going to affect us.
With the Matadors in a 7-0 hole to start the second half, they were determined to flip the script on their first drive. But on a crucial third down, Gingle threw a floater that went right over the head of sophomore Hadi Hamwe and instead into the hands of Spartans Felipe Selviera. Selva missed tackles, and 60 yards later, he reached the end zone for his second touchdown of the game. Although the Matadors' offense wasn't clicking, their defense kept them in the game, and they finally found their groove late in the fourth. The Gingle to Granzella connection led the Matadors down the field. Granzella finally put the Matadors on the board with a 41-yard touchdown reception to cut the deficit back to 7.
The kids don't ever give up. The coaching staff never gives up. We're just going to keep plugging and try and do whatever we can do.
The Matadors had one last chance with just over a minute remaining, but trapped in the shadows of their own end zone, Gingold was sacked for a safety, putting an end to the game. Another homecoming loss delivered a crushing blow to the Matadors, as well as their hopes of a league championship and a playoff run.
The hard part was that it was going to kill our CCS chances and end my season a couple games short. The only thing you can do is come back as hard as you can, even if there's nothing left for the end. I mean, most teams would just drop it and they're done and not try and not care. But we were still dedicated to our team, showing up to practice, and we were ready to win the rest of our games.
This loss angered a lot of us, especially us seniors, who this was our last homecoming ever. I think it pissed us off more, and it boosted us to do better later. And against Gunn next week, I think it really showed.
The following week, the Matadors played in their third straight homecoming game. This one would be on the home turf of the 0-7 Gunn Titans. Facing the laughingstock of the league, the Matadors were ready to release all of their anger from their previous loss.
We didn't underestimate them. We were prepared for every play. We knew we were going to come out strong and just kick ass.
Our mindset going into that game was we wanted to make sure everybody got a chance to play and play a lot. So we decided that we were going to go ahead and get as many points in the first half as we could.
And just like Mueller and the Matadors hoped, points came in bunches in the first half. It was evident from the early stages that the Titans were no match for the bigger and faster Matadors. They were up to for 42 points, 21 coming in each of the first 2 quarters. Gingle led the way with 3 touchdowns on just 4 carries. By the start of the second half, the Matadors had taken out all of their starters and put in their reserves, who were able to show off their capabilities and signs of success to come in the future.
It was nice that finally our backups could get some play time in, because most of them deserve to play. They've been putting in all this work all season, and I think this gun game was really good light.
After a tough 8-game stretch, the Matadors took full advantage of a much-needed bye week by healing from nagging injuries and intensely breaking down the scouting report for their upcoming game.
Everyone could rest up. If we had a game that week, I probably wouldn't have played because I had a IT band issue, and that would have hurt a lot if I couldn't play against Tino.
Practices were a little bit more laid off. We're wearing shorts for a little bit more relaxed. Trying to heal up so that we could finally explode during the game and just go all out, because that's what we had to do if we wanted to win, because Cupertino's a good team.
The following week was the game the Matadors had awaited for an entire year, the helmet game. Having had a firm hold on the trophy for the past 11 years, the Matadors knew that all of the pressure was on them.
We're going to win it. We're going to keep the helmet, without a doubt. Cupertino was better than they had been in the past, especially they got their quarterback back.
There's a lot of tension during practice, tension on social media. People are like, oh, beat MV, beat Tino. So, it's pumping us up. It's more than a friendly rivalry game. It's like similar to war.
It's definitely a lot of pressure. I think if we lost that game, I don't know if I'd go home that night. I don't know if any of my friends that went to Monte Vista that played on the team in the past would forgive me, because it was basically my responsibility to come up with the win.
And that was not a responsibility that Gingold and the Matadors took lightly. Right out of the gates, it was obvious that they had come out with a greater intensity than the Pioneers. After forcing a 3-and-out in the opening possession, the Matadors received the ball at their own 31 and went a long, drawn-out drive capped off by a Migdal touchdown. The Pioneers looked to answer back with a touchdown of their own in the second, but their drive stalled and they were limited to just 3 points. Following an unforced safety allowed by the Matadors to cut the deficit to 2, the game seemed to be slipping out of their grasp. But as time winded down in the half, the Matadors once again drove down the field and scored to go up 14-5.
I know that they were prepared to go against us because they wanted the helmet.
Defensively, we made a couple adjustments in terms of where the linebackers or the defensive ends would go, who was going to take who was going to take the outside. We made those adjustments a little bit.
Despite being down 9 to start the third, the Pioneers were determined to stage a comeback. Led by the dominant rushing attack of senior C.J. Pumphrey, the Pioneers easily worked their way past the Matador defense en route to a score. However, the Matadors stormed right back. After a 41-yard touchdown scamper by Migdal was called back, sophomore Owen Malone scored his first touchdown of the season just 2 plays later. On Cupertino's next drive, Homley smartly stripped the ball from a Pioneer receiver to put an end to a threatening drive, and minutes later, after an interception by Granzella, the Matadors all but put the nail in the coffin with the score to increase the lead to 16. But this was the helmet game, and the Pioneers would not go down without a fight. With 3:30 left on the clock, they went on a spirited 2-minute drive sparked by a 48-yard reception by senior Jeremy Ho to get inside the 10. After the Matadors tightened down at the goal line, senior quarterback Anthony Bizzetti sneaked his way into the end zone to reduce the deficit to 10. But on the 2-point conversion, Pizzetti's pass intended for his star tight end was broken up by Ira. And after a failed onside kick, the Matadors knew that they had finally secured the win. For the 12th year in a row, the helmet would stay at MVHS.
You're just thankful for what you have and that you've been able to play for so many years, that you've been able to beat them, that you've been able to have football. And after that, it's not about whether you're going to make the playoffs or what you're going to do after high school. It's just like, I was able to do this, and it'll be there forever. No one's ever going to take that away from me.
We were able to show them, that we were better all these years and that we've proved it our senior year.
This will be my 14th or 15th year, and we've had and held on to the helmet for 12 years, which is the longest string since this thing kicked off.
A week later came November 13th, a date that the Matadors never thought would have come so quickly. Senior night. The final time that any of these seniors would suit up in purple and gold. The final time that they would break the huddle with their teammates. The final time they would play under the Friday night lights. Facing a rival in the Lynbrook Vikings, the Matadors were ready to channel all their emotion onto the field. One last time.
You need to win this game. You can't lose this game. It's your senior night, and it's against Lynbrook, another rival. There was no option.
It was very emotional, and we just wanted to play our heart out. Like, we didn't care if anything bad happened, whether we twisted our ankle, whether our hand was hurting, whether we were feeling sick. This was our last opportunity to go crazy and let the beast out.
After forcing a stop inside their own 50 on the Vikings' first drive, the Matadors' offense went on to make an absolute mockery of the Lynbrook defense. On a 7-play, 89-yard drive, they ran the same toss play 5 times, and not one of the times was the Vikings able to stop it. The drive was capped off from a touchdown by Hadi Hamwi, who would then go on to score not just 1, but 2 more touchdowns in the first half alone to help propel the Matadors to an authoritative 28-zip lead at the break.
They took away goal line on the inside, and so we had to go to the outside, and we had enough speed to go ahead and do that.
We knew our assignments. We were confident in ourselves. We put our minds to it.
Hoping for a miracle comeback, the Vikings surprised the Matadors by recovering an onside kick to start the second half. With the senior reserves already in the game for MVHS, the Vikings were able to score on a deep connection from quarterback Mason Noggle to his favorite target Dylan Bezegas for the touchdown. With the momentum shifting, the Matadors promptly put back in their starting group, and after the 6th and last ever Gingle to Granzella touchdown connection, the Matadors put the game out of reach.
That was the positive note right there, even through so much adversity this season.
The seniors watched the clock tick down as their seasons and high school careers came to an end. 2 years ago, this is when they celebrated their first win. But on this day, they celebrated the journey they had traveled. Through the ups and downs, they stuck together. And together, they reached this final moment.
Every team that played us probably thought this is the same 1-9 team that we beat, that Westmont beat us by 40, that Tino beat us, that we tied Lynbrook. But we just showed, like, we're not that team. We're not that team at all.
Unfortunately for the 6-4 Matadors, they were unable to accomplish their goals of winning a league championship and making the CCS playoffs. But although this may not be a season that will go down as one of the greats in MVH's history, it is one that will remain in the hearts of the Matadors for the rest of their lives.
We lost some, we won some, but, you know, playing with these guys, you know, we'd screw around in the locker room, have lots of fun, you know, people get tackles, you know, pat each other on the back, slap each other's ass, you know, it was fun. It was just fun with these guys, just doing what we did.
20 years from now, I'm going to see our senior season as a success, even though we didn't do exactly what we wanted to do. But it's kind of like a learning point, too, for the rest of your life and for the younger guys. So I'm glad we can help them with that, teach them that. And we just had a brotherhood out there that I'm never going to forget.
There comes a time in every athlete's life where they have to say goodbye. Goodbye to a sport that they invested themselves in, some for their entire lives. For most of these seniors, this is an end to a sport that has offered them so much. A brotherhood, a passion, and a purpose. This is the end to the 46th chapter of MVHS football.